of the Gupta brothers is being widely welcomed, but it's not clear if and when they will face justice in South Africa. Many expect them to fight extradition at every turn. eNCA's Aviwe Mtila is watching developments and joins us now. Good morning, Aviwe. Just give us a background of the Guptas and what they have been charged for.
Good morning, Dumelo, and of course, I beg your pardon, morning, Mfundo. And of course, this dates back actually just a year ago when the Gupta brothers formed part of the 17 accused in that Nulane investment saga. You'd understand, of course, that was a feasibility study. They were charged around money laundering, fraud, and corruption. Around a feasibility study that was to happen back in 2011, just ahead of the infamous Estina Dairy Farm project, where we do understand allegations are that in that Estina Dairy Farm project, around 288 million was laundered. But this was a feasibility study back in 2011 just to assess if that dairy farm project could go ahead. The tender given to Nulane Investment, which is owned by Iqbal Sharma. We do understand the allegations that over a period of 7 months, that money then was siphoned off to various companies and various accounts, eventually ending at Island Site Investment, which is owned by the Gupta brothers, Atul and Rajesh, as well as their wives. Of course, they were to appear at the Bloemfontein Magistrate Court at this time last year in June. And of course, that conversation with Interpol already happening back on the 3rd of June to have them, those extradition processes starting. But we do understand, of course, it only coming to fruition with that arrest only happening last year. At the time when they appeared at the Bloemfontein Magistrate Court, 8 of the accused, of the 17 accused, were abroad, including the Gupta brothers as well as their wives. But we do know, even having a conversation with Crispin Perry, suggesting that it could take a time to have the Gupta brothers back on South African soil to face the wrath of the charges that they face around the state capture. Let's take a listen to Crispin Perry and what he had to say just around the extradition process.
Through the law enforcement agencies of the Emirati government, we've been informed that they have been captured and they're in custody. And so from here, what then follows is more cooperation, and then we would now start to begin the extradition process. Yeah. As you would know, an Interpol notice generally is put out widely to sort of find where fugitives of justice are. And it seems that that process has now reached its end. Therein afterwards then kicks in the extradition process, which would require us to then file an extradition with the Emirati government, and they would be ordinarily brought before a court of law where that extradition process then begins.
Aviwe, it's most certainly a very long process ahead, as we've been speaking to everybody, that there'll be a need to manage expectations for those that would have wanted them to account as in tonight. So it's a long process ahead. But what's been the reaction, nevertheless, to the arrest?
Well, there have been mixed reactions on the ground, Mfundo, but a lot of people saying that these are positive developments that will hopefully get some sort of accountability to the billions that have been looted and siphoned off over the state capture and the allegations there. But the reality, Mfundo, is that the Guptas still have many avenues. They'll try to fight this as much as possible while they still abroad, trying not to get their day in court on South African ground. Coincidentally, we were speaking just 3 weeks ago, Mfundo, I'm not sure if you remember, while we were back at the Bloemfontein High Court, as the Gupta brothers were trying to represent themselves in the legal matters of Island Site Investment. You remember that that company was put under business rescue back in 2015, and from there on, it's their business rescue petitioners that were handling the legal matters of the Island Site Investment. They now, at the court, were saying that they wanted the process of confirmation of restraint orders to be halted while they try to sort out who gets to represent Island Site Investment on their legal matters. But of course, that matter was kicked out. But the coincidental thing there, the ironic thing, was how the Gupta brothers were trying to represent themselves on South African soil, having that they abroad. But of course, this brings some sense of hope. But of course, they have many avenues to still explore, and not having their day in court here in South Africa. A conversation that Corruption Watch actually touched on just a bit earlier on. Let's take a listen to that.
Very positive development, and hopefully it takes us further down the line in terms of pushing for accountability for state capture. The UAE also has a system of rule of law, which the Guptas will be able to utilize. We know that they've laundered lots of money into Dubai out of South Africa so they can pay for the best lawyers. So, they're going to use every thing that's available to them to try to avoid this extradition. But hopefully the charges against them are sufficient. We can rely upon the legal system in the UAE and the treaty to do its work and let them come and face charges. Let them come to South Africa and face the charges and prove their innocence if that's their case.
All right, Aviwe, we'll leave it there for now. That's senior reporter Aviwe Mtila.